Welcome to Sugar Here and Now. Last week, we looked at the Jamaica Cane Product Sales Limited. We looked at what it did, how it interfaces with the industry stakeholders, and we said that this week we would look at the Long Pond factory situation. And we have, as our guest, the Minister of Agriculture and Fisheries and Labour and Social Security, the Honourable Derrick Kellier. Minister.
Good evening, sir.
I wish we had you under more pleasant circumstances.
Sure, to discuss a good topic, but
Yes.
sometimes the sugar is not so sweet.
The Long Pond factory.
Yes.
I know for sure that the first time you heard about the pending closure was just around independence in August.
Yes, it took us by surprise in a
Yes.
sense because we thought that based on their production over the last 2 years, they were in a position to improve this year, and we were rather surprised that instead of moving forward, everything came to a standstill.
What is your understanding about their reasons for closure?
What has been said by the operators, Everglades Farms Limited, is that they are losing money. That is their side of the story. And that since the government divested the factory to them in 2009, as well as leased them quite a bit of the cane lands as well, they have actually been losing money because they invested quite a lot in factory upgrade. And the fact is that since the factory upgrade has taken place, we have seen the difference in production and productivity. But apparently, there seems to be some problem as far as we at the ministry observe of some laxity in the management. And they claim to have invested some $1.9 billion, which is a lot of money,
Yes.
into the enterprise. And they are claiming now that they are not able to go forward because there are problems such as the cost of energy, etc., etc., etc. So that's basically what they have come to. They have just plain run out of money, and hence they have no option but to close the factory at this point in time.
I also know that when you heard your concern was immediate and that you pulled together your team and you had discussions.
Yes, we pulled a team from the ministry to include the SIA
Yes.
and the Cane Farmers Association and Everglades representatives themselves to find out what, and Jamaica Cane Product Sales too.
And SCJH.
Yes, and to find out exactly what the situation was. And I got the impression from those discussions that Everglades were seeking some government support to continue, or some other terms of arrangements that could help them to keep the factory open for the scrap. We discussed a lot of options, and we asked our team that the ministry set up to go and try and work with them and see exactly what was possible. We thought that it was in the best interest of the industry that we should keep the factory open because of the socio-economic considerations that are involved. We have over 200 cane farmers out there that have borrowed money, invested heavily, and have loans to pay back, as well as people who are dependent on the industry, like I said, the shopkeepers, vendors, the truck people who do haulage, and all the other attendant services that are attributed to the development of the community. They depend on the sugarcane industry, 100%. And were the industry to close down, it simply means that that community and adjoining communities would literally die. So the government considered this, and the cabinet considered it very hard. The houses, who are the owners of Everglades, they made a proposal based on the meetings that were held between the ministry officials and themselves. What it boiled down to is that they needed an injection of about $374 million to keep the factory going.
Yes.
Government is not prepared to undertake any such move at this time. It is just not possible.
Yes.
And moreover, we have divested the thing off our hands, and we don't intend to get back into the sugar industry as such.
Yes.
However, the second option that existed to us was to determine how would we help the farmers to take off this crop. So what we did, we made a proposal to the cabinet for a transportation support to the farmers
Yes.
that would deal with the additional cost from Long Pond to the nearest factory that they could offload the cane to.
Yes.
It was determined that Appleton was one of the nearest factories, and hence we had discussion with the operators of the Appleton estate as well, and they are in need of another 100,000 tons of cane.
Yes.
They
Easily.
can manage.
Yes.
And as such, we decided to pursue that option. The cabinet agreed and to provide a subsidy, and that is the direction in which we are moving to ensure that the farmers do not go under. The discussions, however, with Everglades will continue because we want to see exactly what options there are to prepare the factory for a future crop, maybe 2017, because it would make good sense were the factory to reopen. It has really come up in terms of its operational efficiency. And we think that if they can get the cogeneration operations going with some investor and some other things that need to be tidied up with management and so on, then there may be a real future for the estate and for the factory. So the discussions will continue as well, whether or not other investors need to come in and change the modus operandi.
Well, Minister, you were caught between a rock and a hard place because you're a neighbor.
Yes,
You know what it means to those communities.
most definitely.
Furthermore, having divested, government having divested itself of the industry is not about you can't go back into the sugar industry. On the other hand, you can't take up $300 million even if you had it and give it to somebody to manage an enterprise that clearly needed management
That is
changes.
correct. That is correct.
So you had no option. So now Cabinet has managed to find funding to assist, as you put it, with the haulage of cane to another factory. Appleton, though, may not be the only factory. I'm sure, for instance, Worthy Park also needs a cane, and you're not going to have a crop in which Appleton is going to necessarily take all the cane. What are your thoughts on it?
Well, the options are open with that as far as I'm concerned. What we are doing, the subsidy that we are providing, will be to the nearest factory. So it means that if it is costing $10 to take it to Long Pond, and it is now going to cost $30 to take it to the nearest factory,
Yes.
we would add the $20 to take it there.
All right, got you.
Good. Now, anybody that goes beyond that,
They're going to have
they
to.
have to stand the cost.
They have
of
to
that.
stand the cost
Yes.
of that.
We are just making sure we provide an option
Yes.
to the nearest factory that can help them, because this is an assistance.
But you have gone
It's not
even
a
further
problem.
than that in your thought process. You move very quickly. You surprise me because you're even looking at the route.
Yes, the route that which we have looked at and is the most feasible route is much shorter than any other route that was contemplated.
Yes.
It's about 1/3 the distance of any other route
Yes.
that is currently out there to take it to any other estate. And it is the route that was used originally to take the canes to Appleton and to take it to Hamden as well,
Yes.
when Hamden was in operation. So it is just a matter of getting the roads back in a good condition that the cane can be hauled along that venue. What it will do as well, it will open up back the opportunities for the farmers in southern St. James, in that northern section
yes.
of Trelawney there,
Yes.
as well as in St. Elizabeth.
Yes.
So it is a win-win situation for the sugarcane industry
Yes.
in that section of the island. It will bring back economic activity, which has been very lacking since the demise of the banana industry. And so the tourism industry as well will benefit.
Appleton tour.
Yes, because this road will take you from the pier in Falmouth all the way to a compound town and down
Yes.
to Appleton. So it's
In
a
fa-
win-win for everybody.
And the Montagonians do not have to worry that they're going to have these endless queues of cane trucks
Going
coming
through the
through
town.
their town
That
in
will
the
cre-
peak tourist season.
That is correct. It will create tremendous havoc to have those huge trucks going through the town with sugarcane. It just would not be, it would be an untenable situation.
No,
So this is the best option
this
that
is
we
the best
have.
option.
We are
And
trying to get, though, we have to have some further discussions with the owners of Appleton to see what support, since they will be benefiting from the sugarcane, additional tonnage. We want to see exactly what input they can make towards assisting the farmers.
yes,
Maybe with harvesting, those that have lands that are amenable to being
Yes.
harvested by the harvester,
Yes.
and whatever other inputs they can make to assist the process, because everyone is going to benefit. So we want to have some further discussions with them on those issues.
okay. Already, we're looking forward to an expanded harvesting committee, which will include representatives from the factories factory to which the cane will go. Going to take a break, Minister. When we come back, I want to talk to you a little about your deeper concerns about that whole area and this factory, because it's not fun for you to come out of a divestment and have to be facing this kind of dilemma. I want to hear a little of what you think about it. When we come back in a while, we're going to look at more in terms of the medium-term considerations for the Long Pond factory. Back in a moment.
Jamaica Gold, Jamaica's finest brown sugar, nature's energy food.
Welcome back. I'm speaking with Minister Derrick Kellier about the Long Pond factory situation. And Minister has already told us that he has been to cabinet. There is a resource in place, not limitless, that will help with the movement of cane to the nearest factory. And Minister said, you know, if it used to cost 10 and it now costs 30, the subsidy would be the additional amount to the nearest factory. Right, Minister?
That's correct. That's correct. We are ensuring that the farmer is not left stranded.
Yes.
So we are giving him that option to take it to wherever he wants, but we will only subsidize to the nearest factory.
Okay. So right away, you are placing the area in a situation where the factory workers will have a problem. But the field workers should by and large remain in employment.
Yes, based on how things are evolving, those field workers will still have work.
Yes.
The fields have to be plowed again. They have to be serviced with fertilizers, the trenches and the irrigation systems. All these things have to be done. So field workers will still be in employ.
Yeah.
It is the factory workers that, for the most part, the Everglades group will have to deal with that matter in respect of redundancies and so on.
Well, I hope you know, Minister, we don't see that factory operating to grind cane to go to a distillery in a crop.
That is something that we have to take note of, because we are aware that the group is still dealing with the distillery at Hamden. So the molasses that they need to run that operation, we don't know exactly how they are going to source that. But that is something that we have to watch very closely.
Because you see, Minister, the marketing company, when it signs a contract with Tate and Lyle or whoever, sells an amount of sugar. You have a contract for, it will turn out to be 48,000 this time, with an additional option. And when you fall short in that option, the amount of money that goes in the pool is short, and it affects the payment. Like this year, we have some 4,000 or 6,000 tons short. So if they use a cane for purposes other than for making sugar, it's going to affect the payment of the factories in that pool. And I wanted to know, what were your thoughts on what would you like to see happen in the medium term with that factory?
Well, first of all, the discussions, as I said before, between us at the Ministry of Agriculture and Fisheries and Everglades is going to be ongoing. What we really like to see is a plan, a real plan that shows the sustainability, how sustainability is going to be achieved. What are the inputs that are necessary to ensure this sustainability?
Yes.
What are the things that are going to be in the plan to show the driving down of the costs of the operations, so as to ensure viability when they get back on track? And really to see what the expansion program is, because we can't afford to have lease lands to the company and they are not in production. And what that is doing is actually holding back the growth agenda of the country. So that is an overall look has to be taken during this period as to exactly how the whole sustainability and development is going to happen at Long Pond. And our experts will give whatever advice they can.
Yes.
And we want to see a commensurate approach coming from Everglades.
Yes.
And some real energy put into this thing, because, sugar really has a place in this country. And we just can't afford to allow it to deteriorate and to put farmers' future at risk and communities at risk and children at risk. So the industry is really here to stay.
Yes.
But we have to take the necessary corrective actions to make it work in a sustainable way. So I'm looking forward to see in those discussions as they go forward.
In fact, you will insist.
Yes, that
you
is
will
part
insist
of what
through
we
you
insist.
and your regulatory body.
That's right. That's correct.
To be clear, Minister, what do they actually own? What belongs to them and what still belongs to the government?
Well, let's put it, all the lands outside of the factory are lease lands.
Yes.
So the government is supposed to be, through SCJH, supposed to be collecting, is the landlord.
That's correct.
And should be collecting the revenues from that. But they own the factory.
And the land on which it sits.
Yes, they own that. Yes.
And the distillery.
And the distillery at Hamden.
Yes.
The rest of the lands are owned by the government
Quite
through
so.
SCGH.
Quite so. And that's part of what they owe. Because they owe you.
Yes, SCJ is now at their doorstep, because they are also,
Because they have been collecting lease for land, they lease to the farmers, but not paying their own.
Well, SCJ has to be abreast of that, so they can take action to collect their bit.
So it's clear, Minister, that not only in terms of your own background in agriculture and the fact that your neighbors to this.
Yes, very
It's clear
close to
that you understand very well and are of a mind that the industry must continue, but it must become efficient, and you are going to insist through your agencies and ministry that a plan is in place.
Most definitely.
Yes.
Once we have that and we're able to look at it in a very objective way, and once we see that the plan really creates the platform for sustainability and development, expansion, then I think we'll be able to give it the green light, so to speak, so that, you know, sugarcane is green.
Minister, in the middle of a time like this, you're giving somebody a green light.
Well, sugarcane is all of that, you know. So
very good.
you know, we have to make sure that the things are in place, because the farmers are anxious, you know, and they are very concerned because their future is tied up with the factory.
Yes. You know, it's surprising all this time, from August when this thing was burst upon us, there are still people who are just coming to grips with the idea that the factory won't operate, you know, and they are scared witless.
Well, you see, they were hoping that they knew that discussions were taking place. And because of how things have gone in the past, I'm sure there were people that were hoping that the government would adopt a different approach, who are not really understanding that the climate that we are in, we are not in a position to make any move with the factory in terms of giving them any support in this way. So they were still hoping and wishing that the factory could be back on track, and that the owners and operators of the factory would find a way to do it. What they are putting forward is arguments to say that next year prices are going to go down. Now that to me is really not a good leg to stand on. Eh? No, because next year prices don't chip in yet.
Yes. Yes.
So there's no need to be harping on what the prices are going to be next year. But that should have been part of the plan of their business before,
Absolutely.
because everyone knew that
Absolutely.
the regime was going to change in Europe.
Prices go up and down.
As such, there was going to be a downward movement. But at the same time, it means that there is going to be an upward movement again as well. So you keep yourself in order, you cut costs where necessary, and do what it is to make yourself efficient during this time.
All right, so people like to think, well, it's true, the sugar industry is privatized.
Yes.
And they like to talk about the market economy and market forces, and therefore they must know they're dealing with a commodity. Prices rise and fall and rise and fall and rise and fall. So you're quite right, Minister. But before we close, can I just candidly ask you a question? The divestment agreements, if you could change them, having looked through it and perused it, don't you think they're a little inadequate?
Well, I wouldn't state the particular clauses that are allowed to change, but I can assure you that there are a number of issues in there that would come in for some amount of correction.
Yes.
I think that because the hemorrhaging that was taking place at the time,
Yes.
the government of the day wanted to move this thing off its plate.
Yes.
And that's basically what they did. Now that we have seen what has emerged, we recognize that there are a lot of loopholes in the agreement. And that is something we are going to have to look at.
Yes.
Some of the things that they were committed to had timelines and all that. So, you know, we are going to see how we can make possible changes going into the future. Because these agreements really, they were not as protective of the Jamaican people as they should have been to these investors.
And you know why I ask, Minister? Because those people will say, why you mean to say the government could step in and force them to do this, that, and the other? Of course you couldn't.
No, you can't.
You couldn't.
Because there are no clauses in there that will require, you know, that if you don't utilize the lands that release you in 5 years, you have to revert them to the state. to the the state agency responsible,
Yeah.
or things of that nature. So other arrangements could be made with other people.
Yes.
So you have thousands of acres of land all over the place tied up that are not being utilized.
So you, to the best of your ability and the agreement you have in place, you chose the alternative. In fact, you had no alternative, and now it's to implement it as efficiently as possible.
That's correct. And we just want to say to the cane farmers out there and all the persons involved in the industry that the government is very concerned, and as such, they have taken this decision about the welfare of the people and knowing the difficulties it would create for them in terms of their socio-economic situation. We would not want to see people who have pledged their collateral to use for expansion purposes to now lose that collateral, houses and properties and so on. So the government is very concerned and has decided to step in because this is the only way in which we can help. And I think the cabinet was, the Prime Minister and the cabinet was very generous in agreeing, bearing in mind that we have divested this industry.
Minister, thanks. We know the competing interests. We know that you had to put up a strong argument at cabinet.
That's right.
We appreciate it, and we look forward to moving the cane efficiently and to the medium and long-term plan for that and the rest of the industry. This has been Sugar Here and Now. We have looked at this is a first look at the Long Pond situation. We heard what the ministers had to say. We'll be following it on subsequent programs, and I can say to the farmers there, we're going to make it work. We're going to work together. We're going to make it work. Thanks for watching.